What's up guys, with post rotation just around the corner, Lost Zone lists have changed a lot. With losing cards like Scoop Up Net and Quick Ball and Capture Energy, things have certainly changed. So in this video, I'm going over post rotation lists from the recent Japan event and the recent Bangkok event that did well, and talking about why they're like this, and I'll also be going over some lists I found for Japan that I thought were pretty cool. So if you enjoyed the video, drop a sub, I really appreciate it. But yeah, enjoy the video guys. Right guys, so getting into the first list here, this is basically the concept, or it was very close to this list that won in Japan and Bangkok, the regional league in Bangkok I think it's called, and the Champions League in Japan. Anyways, looking at this list, this is the first list we have to look at. So it's worth keeping in mind we've lost a few cards. We've lost Skill Up Net, we've lost Capture Energy, we've lost Quick Ball. So immediately the Quick Balls and the Capture Energies get replaced with Nest Balls. Very simple. There's 4 of in this list, and there is 3 of in this list. These lists are very similar, the 1 to 2 events. But they've got the 2 beach courts, we've got a couple recyclers, couple Claras, 1 Raihan. And so I think the most important thing to talk about is sort of the Pokemon lines that are going on between these two decks, because sort of the switching cards, I mean, you got 4 Escape Rope, 4 Switch card, hasn't really changed much from pre-rotation. And the energy lines, of course, I mean, something interesting we've seen now that we haven't really seen in the past is running a 1 of energy. And I think that's because of how split they want to be on attackers. How many energy types they want to run. They want to have their consistency with their extra metal energies and their extra water energies, so they have access to these good attacks without having Screw Up Net. But they still want to have access to these like once per game attackers like the Raikou V in this list, and we'll see some more attackers like that later in this video. But the one of energy, don't know if I personally I'm happy if we have to run that in the format, but it's certainly interesting to think about, because, I mean, the Raikou isn't going to come up in every matchup, and not even the most relevant matchups. In this deck, as far as I know, the Raikou is good against Lugia, and it's good against the Urshifu and Teleon deck that has popped up in Japan, as a very strong answer to Lost Zone Box if they're not prepared for the Urshifu and Teleon deck. But you can run the Raikou, and you have that Sky Seal Stone to just knock it out. And it is a pretty efficient attacker to use with the Sky Seal Stone. So if you get into a situation like, for example, against Arceus Giratina, you have sort of that attacker that can use the Sky Seal Stone to punch through and get the extra prize. So that's it. 1 Cramorant, I've been told from people that are close in Japan that the 1 Cramorant is not it, or like it's supposed to be worse in Mirror, but these lists are both playing it. Both these winning lists are playing it, so there might be some merit there. Does seem questionable to me, but we'll have to see once we iron out these lists more once it comes to the West and we get it on PCGO and stuff. But a few interesting tech cards that we see here. This list not running it, but this list running the Vacuum and the Echoing Horn. Vacuum is very strong to just get Pokemon into the Lost Zone, to get cards into the Lost Zone just so you can attack with your Pokemon, your Sableyes. So if you think about how the Mirror goes, right, if you go second in the Mirror, use Chorus on turn 1, use 2 Comfies, you get to 4, do it again the next turn, you get to 8. If you have a Lost Vacuum to get rid of like your own beach court, you'll be able to get all the way to 10 on turn 2 going second, so you can attack with Sableye. That's one of the more interesting applications that I've seen of it, like just to get cards in the Lost Zone, you get to 7 easier sometimes. But as we've seen in Standard, that isn't particularly strong. So I'm really interested to see the evolution of cards like Lost Vacuum and Echoing Horn. Echoing Horn is also a card I doubt its application in the Mirror, because with the loss of Scoop Up now, we also lose the ability to take Pokemon off the board in the Mirror, which was really important, getting your Comfies off the board so they couldn't be targeted down with Sableye damage. Now they'll always be there. If you got Manaphy, you can knock out your Manaphy, spread damage to your Comfies. You've got to heal them. There's no taking them off the board, and then you don't have to worry about with the threat later. You're gonna have to heal them, and I think it's gonna be much more difficult to avoid your opponent taking 2 prizes. I mean, we have less switch cards we have less heal cards in general. So that's gonna be true of the Lost Zone Mirror, of course. It's interesting to think about how these dynamics play out in the Lost Zone Mirror, and I don't know if Lost Zone decks will end up with a lot of board space for the Echoing Horn to be effective, but it is certainly yet to be seen. So, and then running the Zamazenta because it hits hard into Lugia, hits hard into Gardevoir, is able to kill the basic Gardevoir, which is important. And a lot of these matchups that aren't the Lost Zone Mirror, you're going to be heavily relying on the Zamazenta because it does do a lot of damage. And the 1-1 split of the Zamazenta and the Snorlax. The Snorlax is easier to attack with than the Zamazenta. We've seen this in this format as well with Pedro's list. Seems like the same will be true next format. Um, Snorlax easier to attack with, and especially since you have less ways, well, not less ways to switch, you have less nets, makes your board a bit more clogged. So, having an easier way to attack is certainly very important, even though you are playing, lots of Raihans. So, yeah, that is the first list. If we move on here, we're going to be looking at Lost Zone Giratina, which is going to be incredibly strong, certainly. Rivaling Lost Zone Box as the top two archetypes in the format, but this is a Lost Zone deck, so we're going to talk about it. This list, very interesting. This was one of this did better in Thailand, and what I found is no Manaphy is very interesting to me. I don't know how that sort of lets you fight in the mirror. But it's certainly yet to be seen. This list is running to Sableye, which is pretty interesting. I would probably play a Manaphy if I was going to play Lost in Giratina, even though in this format you don't have to play the Manaphy, or in previous formats, especially in the Lost Origin format, in the Palkia format, even though Radiant Greninja was a big threat, didn't really have to run the what's it called, the Manaphy, because you could just net the Comfy out of play. But in the next format, this isn't really true. The Comfies, you got two of them in play, they're staying in play. So it will certainly be interesting what goes on, and if a list like this can actually compete in the mirror. The advantage is you don't have to run Clara, so they're always gonna have it. The Lost Zone Mirror will always have an advantage with Manaphy if you don't have enough Claras to recycle it. They just say like kill it, then knock out two Pokemon later with Radiant Greninja. So not going to rely on that. But the thing about Giratina is I think it's going to have a better matchup spread against everything. I think it's going to be better against the Lugias, better against the Gardevoirs, better against the Miraidons, better against, maybe not Miraidon, but better, well, probably Miraidon if they're running Klefki. But yeah, all these decks, I think that this deck is going to be better against, but that doesn't mean that's a better deck in general because Lost Zone is going to be such a large portion of the format. Lost Zone Box is going to be such a large portion of the format. It doesn't have to commit cards to running a Giratina line and can have space for stuff like Clara and Manaphy, which it seems like this deck doesn't right now. Running the Temple in here is pretty interesting for the Lugia matchup. That'll be what it's for, mostly. Still rocking the Beach Court, seems good. And running lots of switching cards, the same amount that the Lost Zone box list that we just looked at do. So confident that Giratina will be a heavy contender in this format. Just difficult to tell to what extent that would be. And now if we look into the next list, this is just a Lost Zone list. I just wanted to highlight some really cool lists that I found because something that like this looks absolutely ridiculous. We got trekking shoes, we got Kyogre. In the post rotation format, I played a couple of games, not a lot. What I have found is, especially through Roxanne, it is so difficult to get to Kyogre. I played some Kyogre. it is really difficult to get to Kyogre because you can't really thin as fast as you could this format with Scoop Up Net a lot of the time, and with Oranguru as well being a huge loss for Kyogre. Ordinary Rod as well. All this stuff makes it really, really difficult to get a strong Kyogre in. So this deck's playing the Medicham, so you can go Sableye Medicham, which is certainly a strong combo. In the mirror, yeah, you just do some damage and then they can't heal everything, right? So eventually you'll get that Medicham down, you can go for Kyogre. You can go Medicham, then Manaphy, and then Kyogre taking 3 prizes in one turn, which is actually one of the coolest concepts I've seen. I'll certainly have to try it myself and see how good it is. But this is a cool list from Japan as well that I saw that I wanted to highlight. Now if we go to the next list, this list has Galarian Zapdos and a higher Lightning Energy package. Not running the Zamazenta, you have more space for these sort of different energies, and recognize that Raikou is more likely to be useful than Zapdos, but Zapdos does have a really interesting place in this format. It has 2 main applications. Arceus Giratina, you can knock out the Arceus with Sky Soul Stone, take 3 prizes, which is very convenient, and will give you a heavy advantage in the matchup. And Miraidon, you can knock out Regieleki with Sky Soul Stone. There's 2 boss in this list, taking 4 prizes on a Regieleki, and that'll be almost game ending every single time you pull it off. So it's a reason for the Galarian Zapdos, and it's honestly pretty cool. This list playing one Sableye is pretty interesting, and also playing Pokegear, which is something we didn't see in the other lists, but Pokegear does seem relatively strong in the new format. Because, I mean, you have less ways to get your basics with Nest Ball. You really want to be hitting Colress, because if you don't hit Colress, you'll be losing every game. Uh, like there isn't really much ways to like, okay, well I missed for a turn, well I can accelerate a ton of my cards into the lost zone because they're on net and make a massive comeback in that way. If you're missing Chorus, you're missing Chorus. You're missing out a whole turn of lost zone, and even though you have backup supporters like Raihan, not really what you want to be doing. And the cool thing about Pokegear post rotation is that our recovery turning from an item to a supporter card means the Pokegear is more likely to hit something and give you value, and even hit like if the card's supporter you need for the turn, it's more likely to hit that. Instead, obviously, Pokegear couldn't get an item card in the current format. So I think Pokegear is better now, better in the post rotation than it was before. Will it be played? I don't know. Will it be good enough? I don't know, but that's for us to work out. But it is worth noting and worth considering when we start to build our Lost Box list in the next format. So. Onto another list. This is the Radiant Charizard list. Interestingly, with Snorlax, now you have to run double turbo energies, which is not ideal, but this is just to get some. The Snorlax helps you to get some big damage on the board when you need it. Does more damage than Sableye. Doing 180, and then you can snipe something with Sableye, because it's not going to be taking a lot of knockouts. There isn't something like Statland that you absolutely have to knock out anymore. But yeah, playing the Radiant Charizard and the whole Lucha for the mirror. I'll be interested to see if the No Greninja, Radiant Charizard, and whole Lucha, like a deck like this with more turbo options, 3 Beach Courts, will be better in the mirror. Not convinced, to be honest. I think it'll be worse in the mirror and then worse in like every other matchup. But the Radiant Charizard's obviously a strong attacker. It can kill Miraidon, it can kill Lugia. With Choice Spell, that's probably the main reason for the Choice Spell is to put on your Radiant Charizard to knock out like a Lugia or a Giratina. Might be better against Giratina. I don't know. Probably not. I feel like Giratina's going to be going for a pretty heavy one prize option in the matchup, and not making them use Manaphy is going to hurt you a lot more than it helps. So, that would be my opinion on this deck. And if we go into this deck, this is just another cool deck I want to show off. Galarian Moltres. Now, two of the best decks in this format that are rivaling Lost Box are God of War EX and Mew. And Galarian Moltres obviously is going to very well deal with those. It's pretty cool because it also means you don't have to play a Mirage Gate on it, which I think might be pretty cool. Something worth trying, and this deck has the Crabominable V, which is great. I love that card. Yeah, Sableye spring damage will help you against like tank decks, and also just help you to get prizes where you shouldn't be able to otherwise on 3-prize Pokemon, even like Mew. So this deck is gonna very easily beat Mew, and I'm sure there's some very specific reasons for the Crabominal. Maybe like a Giratina V-Star, being able to put damage on the attack with Crabominal is probably pretty good. There's probably a lot of application in this deck playing the Canceling Cologne, so you can go Greninja Boss Canceling Cologne. Also pretty cool. Canceling Cologne also works on Klefki, so that can be a pretty interesting reason to run it. I think it'd be hard to draw, so I don't know about the Cologne, but certainly interesting card that we'll have to consider in the new format. If you can get an advantage in mirror that way, it'd certainly be worth running. So that'll be it for the video, guys. Just wanted to go over a few lists that I had here. Yeah, all these lists super cool, and I find it super cool how Lost Boxes evolve post rotation. I think it'll be even cooler watching it, evolve in the West and see how the meta adapts to play around Lost Box. Because Lost Box is probably going to be the best deck in format. I think I can say that pretty confidently, at least in some description. If it's Tina, it's Tina. But, anyways, guys, hope you enjoyed. If you have anything you want to ask me in the comments, feel free to drop a comment. But yeah, I'll see you guys next video.